when I go to my Facebook, I guess you'll tell me what to do, right?
Yeah, you should automatically get an option.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah?
hey, Lina, are you there?
Yeah.
I just tried to tag humanizing the icon. Will you see if it gives us the option to also put it on that timeline?
Okay.
I think we are live on Facebook, you guys. Let me see. Joel, do you see that?
I see live on my Zoom, yeah. Let me
look
see.
at your Facebook timeline.
Yeah, yeah.
And see if it gives you the option. Oh, your camera is not on Zoom anymore.
I know, I'm seeing you. Okay, hold on. Let me add to timeline. Got it. Okay, I think I did it.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
when you switch to Facebook, you lose your camera on Zoom for some reason?
Yeah, I do, but I'll come right back. I mean, it should be okay.
That doesn't happen to me. Okay.
Wait, I said I added a post to timeline. I hope it's, anyways. I don't know if it works.
All right, Facebook people, we're just getting set up here. All right, let me just make sure Joel is now with us on Facebook because your image was not there before.
My back. I mean, it should be okay.
That doesn't happen to me. Okay. I see Celio. Oh, there you are. Okay, good.
All right.
Joel, yay. Okay, now we have one more step to do. Are you ready? This is the really exciting part where you get to be in multiple dimensions. Okay. So I am going to go to my Humanizing the Icon Instagram and go live. And I'm going to, oops. My phone's never seen so much action in its life. Okay. Okay. Live. Okay, so in preparation for going live, I'm going to put the headset in. And I wonder, wait, hold on one second. I'm gonna make Lina's screen go away. So hide, there we go, perfect, okay. All right, I'm going live. So it's checking connection. I'm now live.
Got it.
Oh, wow, that was fast. Hi, people. Hi, Joel. Yay. I get so excited when this is happening. Okay, Joel has just requested me. I'm going to go live with Joel. Now there's a delay, so we give it a moment. There you are. And so now we turn the computer all the way down. Okay.
Okay. It's not letting me go all the way down.
That's fine. I can hear you good. Oh, it's not letting you go all the way down?
No. Let me try it real quick.
Can you put the other side of your headset in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I think this is good. Lina can tell us if it's not. I still am getting a little bit of feedback. I guess maybe it's because you can't go all the way down.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
I know. Let me see here. Oop.
Someone says they're heading out to Oakland for protest mural painting.
Oh, it's Shannon. Hey, Shannon. Shannon Virtue.
All right. Well, we can try it.
Well, I need to, I don't know.
Instagram people, do we sound echoey? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, if it's just feedback in my ear, I can deal with it.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. Okay, so I know what I'll do. I'm going to hold on. I know a solution.
Okay, we're gonna try to fix it. Thank you, guys. Joel, I wonder if you put yours in the computer.
Yeah.
So thank you for your patience, people.
Oh.
We really, really appreciate it. Technology is our friend.
All right, how's that? Is that better?
It might be. Yeah. What'd you do?
I just put in different headphones on the computer so that it's picking me up through a headphone instead.
Okay, cool.
Oi, Eduardo! Bem.
So, Joel, you have a little bit of an audience because you get to play to two screens. It's like being in a theater and working a room, you know?
Right.
But you don't have to be conscious of it because you look great in both. How are you doing in London? Like, what's the vibe there? What's your status with everything?
Yeah, so we're here in London. Just checked out. We just attended one of the protests here, which are really big. So, I mean, London and the UK is a place that I think really resonate with the issues that are going on. So for us, it's something we would love to get more involved with. But my wife, CJ, as you know, is about to have a baby, and literally any day now or over the next couple weeks. You never really know when. But so we've come to London. She's from here, and her family lives here. And so we are spending the summer here with her sister and her mom, and her sister has two little kids. So our daughter Amara, who's 2, can play with her cousins, and it'll be a nice environment for having the baby. But definitely a crazy time, with everything going on in the world, the pandemic, the political situation, and then on top of all of that, there's having a baby in the midst of it. So definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, it's just it's powerful, actually. Powerful to bring in a baby at this moment in the social zeitgeist and kind of where we're at in our human development. That baby's absorbing some interesting energies.
I mean, when you have a baby, something that is on your mind is like, what is the world like that you're bringing this baby into? That's something that you're thinking about, and this is 2020, the craziest year, for quite a long time, very memorable year. And so, just thinking about that, and this baby has no idea what's going to be happening, what's going on. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I'm thinking about. What is the world going to be like that she grows up in? And it's something that I think things are really going to change. I feel that this is a time of change. And so, both because of the pandemic and the political situation, the anti-racism, anti-police brutality movement that's happening right now, I do believe that after 2020, things will be different, and I don't know how, and I hope that they're better, and we don't know. But I do feel that this is a shift.
I agree with you. And I just want to, now that we have some people joining us, give a little update here. So we are also in Facebook. We're Facebook and Instagram. And Celio Bordin, who's a perception artist, is channeling this chat into his work of art with his fountain pen on the Facebook and portion. And we will post the art following this chat. And Joel and I have known each other for a very long time. I think since we were 12 or 13, or at least I was 12 or 13. So it's been an incredible journey for me to see your work develop and evolve from what it was when we were 13.
A little bit different.
Just in terms of backstory, because I'm so into, you know, how things develop. Can you just give some highlights in terms of, you know, where you were at as a young teenager in your mind as an artist, what you can remember, and sort of like how you got to the point that you're at now in a sort of nutshell kind of way.
Sure. And shout out to Max. Hi, Max. Thanks for the comment. He's a big part of the story.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Hi,
I guess
Max.
when I was 13, I mean, you know, starting out as the teenage years are hard, you know, and they are, I definitely can't claim to have it harder than a lot of people, because I mean, you know, as you know, I work with and my organization Artolution, along with Max and everyone else on the team, we work with people in really desperate situations around the world, and refugee camps and people who have experienced conflict. So compared to that, I had it, the best life ever. But you don't know that when you're 13. You're not comparing yourself to anything. You're just saying, I don't know what's going on, and life is hard. And when I was 16, I had a baby with someone that I was with for when I was 15 and 16. I mean, we were just kids, the teenage relationship. And that was something that really, it turned out to be amazing. I mean, I love my son, and we have always had a close relationship. And that really, was something that was a big, important part of my life. But when it was first happening, and when I'm a teenager, and just things feel very chaotic, and things you don't feel like you're in control. You don't really know how to deal with the things that life throws at you. And so, you haven't built up those skills yet, as you do hopefully you build up when you're a bit older. So I think that was really the time that I, as an artist, that was something that I found, that the arts were a way that I could have control over something. I could express myself. It was something that I could do that was me. And no matter what's going on in life, no matter what things are happening, I can take control of that at least. And so I just completely got absorbed with it. I'd always loved art, and I'd always gotten into drawing and painting since I was a little kid. But, those experiences and just feeling, I couldn't express my feelings very well in any other way, as most teenage boys cannot. And just, I think men in general have a hard time expressing their feelings and in a healthy way. And so that was, for me, this outlet. And I think that's where it really all started. And I never forgot that, because now that later in life, as I started working with people who had a lot of challenges, who had gone through trauma, I worked with, youth who had been abused and neglected and had been out on the streets, just some really, really, really tough situations. And I recognized in them as well that the arts, whether it's painting and drawing like me, or whether it's something else like dance, music, theater, these are things that people can really latch onto and feel like, you know what, if everything in life is hard, at least I can do this. And I've seen it so many times in so many different types of people all over the world. And so that's when I really put two and two together, right? My experience with all these other people's experiences. And I realized that the arts are a big key to dealing with difficult emotions and difficult situations.
And so your work in these various communities, whether you were dealing with like mental instability, mental health, or homelessness, and I mean, as you were coming up as an artist, you were also working in these communities as a teacher or a counselor or a volunteer, or in these different roles, right? Not just focused on art.
Exactly. Yeah, I started out more, I always loved doing art, but initially I thought, art is my thing. That's what I do as a personal thing. And when I work in the community, a lot of my early jobs, even just when I was like in college, I worked with the mentally ill. I worked with the homeless. I was a counselor for youth who had experienced trauma in a treatment center for 4 years. I did a whole bunch of, that was all what it was about for me. I was very passionate about that kind of work, but I wasn't doing art with them. I was more of a counselor. I did that kind of thing. And so it took quite a while for me to say, actually, I think this thing, the art, that I feel really, that I can express myself in a personal way is also something that I can use as a vehicle for my more community-based work with these different people that I work with. And so, it took a few years for me to figure that out. But once I started doing that, I realized, this is actually a tool that's very powerful. And I think in the years since then, I found that so many other people, including big, humanitarian organizations like UNICEF and the Red Cross, who we're not now working with through our organization, Artolution, are also recognizing this. And they're seeing that there is this impact that the arts can have in humanitarian situations and with people who have gone through a lot of trauma.
Yeah, I really admire, but also just really honor you as someone that has put yourself in those situations, not just as an artist, but as a human being, and as someone who I feel like you see people through a very broad and open lens. There's a lot of people and artists that go into communities and do amazing work, and everyone brings their own special gift to the table. But what I've seen that I admire in you is that you have worked in these other scenarios. So you do have also certain tools and ways of relating to people that are special and well developed. And don't you think that that lends itself to your ability to work on the ground in these communities, that you have that history, that's like a special experience you bring to the table?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you can't go into these situations without having some tools, and those tools, you can build up in a lot of different ways, but it's really important because I think, whenever you're working in really intense situations, very sensitive situations, and, you have to be sensitive to the situation too. And I think that that's something that, I find that the people who work in these kinds of environments, you have to have this balance between, on the one hand, you have to have that empathy. And there are people who supposedly do humanitarian work and social work who have become so cold, they built up this big wall in front of them, and they can't really have that empathy anymore, and they can't really do the work for the right reasons. And then you have people on the other extreme who care a lot, but they are so empathetic that they break down and they actually can't do the work. And I've seen so many people just in a lot of these environments, just they have to quit. They can't actually do it. And that's because, and I commend them for being that empathetic, but it becomes so much that they can't actually do the work. And so it's like finding emotionally within yourself that balance. I need to be empathetic. I want to be empathetic. And I also need to take care of myself when I'm seeing really difficult things. And so finding that balance is really the key. And the people that I have that I've met, that I've worked with, who are the best at it, are the ones that really can strike that balance.
That's really, really well said. So let's also tell people these communities that we're referring to that you do work with currently around the world. Who are some of these people that you're touching and interacting with regularly? Where are they and who are they?
Great. Yeah, so that's an important question. So our organization, Artolution, which is a nonprofit organization, we are focused on our big programs are in Uganda, in a place called Bidi Bidi Refugee Settlement, which is for people from South Sudan who have come across the border there, in the northern border of Uganda. Also in the Rohingya refugee camps of Bangladesh. Also in Jordan, where we work with Syrian refugees, many of whom are in the Azraq refugee camp, which is in the desert near the border of Syria and Jordan. And we also work a lot in Colombia and the United States with diverse populations, including refugees, people who have been displaced, and also other youth and other communities who have just gone through a lot of violence and conflict. And we do have a presence also in Brazil, in Greece, and some other places. But those first five that I mentioned, Uganda, Jordan, Bangladesh, Colombia, and the United States. Those are the ones that we are doing projects year round. And the really important thing about Artolution, and the whole reason we set it up, is because we recognized that the most impactful way that this work can happen is if local artists who are teaching artists who really want to get involved with the kids, if they're the ones that are leading this. So in all of those locations, we have teams. And so in the Syrian refugee camp, all of our teaching artists working with the kids, doing murals year round, they're all Syrians themselves. They live in the camp, they are refugees, they have experienced a lot of challenging situations, war and conflict, but they, I get inspired by them every day because they are the types of people that even though they've gone through so much, they somehow have found it in themselves to dedicate their lives to the kids, to the young people, to their community through the arts. And so they're leading mural projects and other types of arts programs all throughout the year. And we have partners in all of these places that help to make this happen. UNICEF, the Red Cross, UNHCR, the International Rescue Committee, a lot of different big and also very small grassroots organizations.
Amazing. Okay, so can you talk about the scale and scope of the work, the actual art, how the community is integrated into the process, and what your role is? And yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, great. So basically, the methodology of our work with Artolution, it really boils down to, it's all about the participants. Usually they're children, teenagers, sometimes we work with all ages, families, adults as well. And the idea is that the participants actually come up with all of the ideas. So if we're going to create a mural, which has always kind of been the centerpiece of Artolution, although we branched into many types of art forms, if we're going to paint a mural, we sit down first with the participants. And the lead artist, whether it's me, whether it's one of the local artists, whoever it is, we say, okay, guys, we are going to create something together. And what do you want to say to the world? What is your message? What is your vision of the future? What do you want to say? And so everyone says, this and that. And we do a brainstorming session. We write a bunch of things on the wall. And then we say, okay, we have a lot of ideas, but we need images. If we're going to do a mural, we need images. And so then everyone gets their paper and pencils and we guide them through how to create sketches. We walk around and help them out with that. And everyone comes up with ideas, visual ideas, sketches. And then we put it all up on the wall. And then the really hard part, this is where the magic happens. We say, how are we going to take all of these ideas and guide you through this so that we can combine them all into one composition? And so people say, I think that the elephant should be in the middle, and then coming on the top of the elephant should be the community that we.
Uh-oh, you froze. Uh-oh. Joel, are you there? Oh no. Joel? Okay. Oh, did it? Can you rejoin Zoom? Or how should we get back? Okay. Well, we can see Celio drawing on Facebook. That's cool. All right, we'll be back in 1 minute, people. Yeah, there you are. I see you. Yay.
Okay.
So I'll turn that down again. Okay, great.
Cool. Do I need to join the Facebook again?
No, because I never left it. So.
Oh, okay. So I'm still on there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Yeah.
Technical difficulty.
Do you remember where you got cut off, or?
Yeah. So we were talking about how do the essence of our collaborative community art projects is how do you get all of these ideas from all of these people and create one thing together? So I think before I got frozen, I was talking about having all the sketches and we put it up on the board and then we guide the kids through the process of how do you create one cohesive composition. It has to make sense together, but out of the different pieces that everyone has come up with. And so we guide them through that process, and that all happens on day one. That all happens in the first workshop, and then we go from there. And after that, it's we're painting, we're out there having fun. Everyone's getting paint all over them. We're playing music. It's kind of a party atmosphere. But also we focus on each day of the project. There's different sections of the mural, and each one will explore different areas of life. So, for example, one area of the mural might be, what is your vision for the future? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years or 10 years? Let's envision that. And then in another area of the mural, it might be, who is someone in your life? Let's paint a portrait of someone special who really supports you. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a friend, somebody who really is important in your life and is supportive of you. And we teach also in that particular day, we might teach a lesson on portraiture, and then they go out to the mural, and that section of the mural, they're doing those portraits. Then on another day, we're exploring something else. So each day it's something different. It's a new art form. It's a new theme. And through all of that, they're exploring. And of course, we always have a lot of activities geared towards team building, because at the end of the day, the number one thing we want these kids to get out of the programming is friendship, is connection, is having positive relationships with the adults in their community as well as their peers. And that's, if there's one thing that we've seen the most kids get out of it and that we want them to get out of it, it's that. Feeling connected, not feeling isolated, not feeling socially excluded, feeling that they are included, feeling that they are connected to their community.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so, I mean, I'm the most familiar with the projects that you lead, but can you speak to how they end up looking so masterful, these murals, because not everyone identifies as an artist. I mean, I actually, speaking philosophically, believe we are all artists.
Yes.
But in terms of this, perspective of identifying as an artist and how we would draw or paint or do these things. And I'm sure it triggers some kind of insecurity or brings people out of their comfort zone to be delving into crafts that they've never explored before. And already that's got to be confidence boosting to get them engaged in this process. But is that a process too within the overarching process, just to get them comfortable in that space?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for many of the people we work with, this is the first time that they have ever picked up a paintbrush. And in our other projects, for example, if it's a performance, which has, by the way, the same methodology of coming up with the idea together, what are we going to create as a theatrical or dance piece? But instead of painting, it's doing a performance. So in any medium, people are going to say, and by the way, the older the person is, the more likely they are to say, oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do it. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to dance. I don't know how to paint. 5-year-olds never say that. They get out there, they dance, they paint, they do everything. They're like confident. 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, you're getting to be like, oh, I can't do it. That's when you really have to, you got to warm them up. You gotta play games, you gotta do activities to get them like comfortable. And adults, they're the worst because they are the most self-conscious. And so it's interesting that I've seen that, but everybody can create something. Everybody can express something. And we pride ourselves with Artolution. Our work is to get people comfortable. Our work is that every single person, is able to do something on that wall, in that mural, or have some part to play in a performance, or we've been getting into recently other types of art forms, especially during the pandemic, where people can't go out and paint together. And we've been doing digital art, we've been doing animation, claymation, stop motion, things like that. And so, there's all kinds of ways to express yourself, but we really believe that everyone has a voice and everyone has a story to tell. And storytelling and shaping one's own narrative is really a core to the work. I think that there's nothing more important when it comes to your life as to what is the narrative that you tell yourself about yourself. If you tell yourself, I can't do anything, I'm no good, I'm stupid, and all these labels we put on ourselves, especially people in really vulnerable situations. I'm poor, I'm a refugee, I'm wrong this or that. Through the arts, this is really a way to say, I'm going to create my own narrative about myself. I'm going to tell my own story. And if I can buy into that, and if it's positive, that can set me on a whole different path in the future in my life.
Mm-hmm. And do you find a lot of these youth are able to comprehend that they're actually taking their power back by flipping the script or creating their own narrative, that it's beyond the art itself and it's something they can carry forward as a leader or just as a community member, that we don't have to take on the stories that society places on us? Like, do you see that sense of transformation and empowerment through this process that they can take away with them?
Yeah, we see it, and it's something that we really believe it's important to measure the impacts of the work, right? You can say you do something, you can hope you do it, you can feel like it's happening, but you really have to have people out there who are researching this, who are measuring the impact, who are doing interviews, who are have questionnaires, have like all different types of ways to find out, is this really happening? Are they really changing their views? And so what we found, I'll give you an example with, there's obviously a lot of issues with youth, in terms of bullying, people being mistreated, especially because of their background, because of their gender, because of their ethnicity, because of where they're from. And those are the communities that we serve where this is like a really big issue. And we've had a couple of situations. I'll give one example in Jordan with Syrian refugees living in the same community as local kids. And there's so much tension between the two. There's at times violence between the two. And these kids who are just growing up there and they don't really know the whole background, but they know that these guys are different than us. And we did a whole performance. And my wife, CJ, she is the head of the performance programming for Artolution. And so she did this project where the whole play that they did and performed in front of the community was about this issue of bullying and people targeting each other because of their ethnicity and because of their backgrounds. And lo and behold, they find out in the middle, she realized that some of them had a lot of tension with each other. This situation was happening within the group. There was actually kids in this group who were mistreating and being violent towards some of the other kids in the same group doing this performance. And so what they're doing the play about is actually what's actually happening, which is why they came up with the idea. They said, this is what we want to do it about. This is a problem in our community. But we find out that this is actually happening with them personally. And by the end of the process, and by the time that they actually performed it, they had become friends. They had really gotten past some of these divisions that they thought that they had. And we've seen that multiple times. And so I think this is really that's success to me. If they can get beyond that and not only get beyond it personally, but through this artwork and through being able to perform it publicly, in front of their entire community, their families, their friends, their school, they're actually also being advocates for social change in their own community. So they're doing it, but they are also encouraging others to do it, and they're creating social change, and they're starting to think of themselves as, hey, I'm actually a person that can change things in my community, and I can make a difference. I can be a positive social change agent in my community. And that's such a powerful feeling to have as a young person who's never really felt that you have that agency before.
It's so powerful too, because I feel like you're kind of creating a portal or like an entry point for these people. You're not like hitting them over the head with a message. You're not like professing at them. You're giving them a safe space to explore these themes and ideas and kind of metabolize their own experiences. And then they get to have those epiphanies and that catharsis and kind of have those reflective moments. And it's like, oh, wait, I can I don't have to do it this way. I can do it this way. And that's
Exactly.
really a sense of empowerment rather than feeling like someone's trying to enforce something on you, you know, or impose
100%.
something on you. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, has become a cliche question, I guess, at this point, and you kind of touched on it, but how has the pandemic affected the work that you're doing? How are you engaging with your various tribes around the world and continuing to move the work forward?
So the pandemic, I'd say a couple things. First of all, I think that in many of the places that we work, in the developing world, in places where there's not a lot of resources, the health consequences can be much more severe. And we're seeing that in a place like Brazil, where, you know, if you think it's bad in Italy or the US when it hits hard, you know, imagine places where they don't even have ventilators, or, you know, it's a place where they don't have the health infrastructure in the first place to deal with it. But what we've seen that's probably at this point, I would say, more severe are the economic implications of the pandemic. So in places like, you know, informal settlements and refugee camps and refugee settlements, I'll give one example of Bidi Bidi refugee settlement that I mentioned earlier. That's in Uganda for South Sudanese. Our teaching artists reported to us that they were receiving half of their food rations that they had gotten before, directly related to the pandemic. And these food rations come from the international community. They come from the United Nations, you know, the World Food Program, things like that. Half. So they were only eating like once a day. They were really suffering. They were going hungry, and it was directly related to the pandemic. So they didn't have the virus, and that wasn't, you know, they were trying to socially distance themselves. It was hard for them to have work. Artolution, we are doing our best to support them. We did send funds, we did send food for our artists, but they're just a small number of people in a humongous refugee camp. It's the second biggest in the world. So these are the kinds of things that we've really seen affecting our communities. And in terms of our programming, I mentioned before, you know, if we're out there painting murals and all these things and doing performances, that cannot be happening right now while people are socially distancing. So we quickly adapted and completely changed our program. And we have a new program called Virtual Bridges. And it's all about how do we keep that sense of community, getting people together, creating art together, being creative, but doing it online. Or doing it also in very small groups and communities where you can have people socially distance among a little, you know, if you imagine a little settlement with some houses and people get together in the center square, but separated, you know, distance from each other. And we're sending people data plans straight to their cell phones so they will be able to have connection. And we're doing a lot of really interesting new programming that we had never done before. I think the most successful has been the stop motion clay animation that we've been doing. So all of our team, most of our teams now are learning this, and now they're able to teach it to the youth and the kids. And it's so fun for them to be able to create their stories, create little characters, and then learn how to animate that and make their own little films, and then teach kids to do that. So that's something we're doing all online. I mean, we've been meeting with our teams in Uganda, the Syrians, in Colombia, every week. Every week we're meeting with them, having workshops, teaching new skills, and inviting them to lead their own workshops for each other. So in Colombia, for example, we had one person, actually tomorrow, Friday, one of our artists is going to be doing a hip hop workshop for all of the other artists.
Oh, nice.
We had someone else doing a dance workshop for the whole team. So it's not just us being the kind of leadership of the organization in the headquarters teaching, it's everyone teaching each other and everyone sharing with each other. And then all of that new knowledge gets passed on to the kids that we're working with. And so it's been, in a way, an opportunity to grow our program and to learn how to do new things. And what's the most amazing part of it is that now with these new tools that are virtual, that are online, we're now able to connect our communities. So we can have kids who are in Uganda, who are in Colombia, who are in different places, actually meeting each other, as well as the artists, meeting each other and creating collaborative works of art together online without ever meeting in person. And so I think that's something, hey, if it wasn't the pandemic and after the pandemic, that's still going to be awesome. And it's something I think that we'll always have as part of our programming.
That's So cool. I can't wait to see these things. Also, you touched on refugees, and the show is humanizing the icon. And that's gone into so many different directions with the different guests that I've talked to that are artists and visionaries on the cutting edge of different mediums and concepts and things. And I just wanted to ask, what does humanizing the icon conjure for you in terms of your work and the lens that you see the world through? And we did offline talk a little bit about that as it pertains to refugees and the view of refugees from the world looking at that situation. And then also now with Black Lives Matter is an iconic movement. And I'm not going to say more, but what does that bring up for you, those words through your lens?
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to the word humanizing, I think is super important. I think that's a real centerpiece of what we're all about. And I think that the arts play a really unique role in that. I mean, you know, as a filmmaker, that's something that I think films do really well, is getting you to meet and to learn these stories about people who you might never ordinarily think you would relate to. And then you realize that this person is totally other part of the world, totally different life than yours, but you can relate to them. And I think that's what we see with refugees, who are the majority of those who we work with in our programming are refugees or people who are otherwise displaced. You know, I think it conjures up a lot of images in people's minds. And first of all, you have to know that refugees are very diverse. I mean, Albert Einstein was a refugee. I mean, there are people that are refugees of all kinds, all classes, all ethnicities. And yes, some of them fit kind of maybe the vision that you have when you think about the word refugee, and some really don't. And even the ones that do are so much more complex than we think at first. At least that I thought before I started working in refugee camps and in refugee communities. And so, you know, when you think about somebody like Samir, who's one of our lead artists in the Azraq Syrian refugee camp in the middle of the desert, I mean, this guy he's so incredible. And he's not that different in age than me. He's just a little younger than me. And we both have, kids, and we both have a family. And in some way, we're both artists. We both do murals. So in some ways, it's like he's not that different than me in certain ways, but he's had this completely different life than me, where he had to flee a war, where he was, in Syria, they actually tried to pull him into the army. When they say you're going to be in the army, you have to go. And if you decide you're not going to go, like he did, because he didn't want to kill civilians, he did not want to be part of that, and he disagreed with it. And so he took this courageous step of fleeing and refusing. And when you do that, you're risking your life, because if they catch you and you don't go to the military, you will be killed. And so he actually, as he fled, they did shoot him, and he has received several bullets, and he has one that went into his neck, and he survived. And he then fled through the desert with his family and ended up on the other side of the border in Jordan in this desert refugee camp, which is just, I mean, where he's from in Syria, it's green, it's naturey, it's nice, but in this place, he's stuck for years in this place that's like literally like the moon. I mean, there is nothing for miles around but just gray, beige colored like rocks, and like no plants, and like almost like no animals. I mean, and that's where they are, stuck with thousands and thousands of people for years, never knowing when they can leave. And by the way, he can't go back to Syria because they still know that he's the guy who left the military, so he can't go back. What is he gonna do? And then when you interact with him, he's somebody he's incredible because he's a great artist. He really motivates the children, and he has this playful nature. Maybe it's because he's a dad of young kids, but he can get out there with the kids, and he dances with them, and he plays with them, and he sings songs with them, and he's such a playful. He has this side to his personality that's very, very childish, and it has a kind of innocent quality that I just love, and the kids just really connect to him. And at the same time, he's this deep, thoughtful man, and when you peel back all the layers and you get to know him and you see what he's doing with his life, it's so inspiring. And you realize like this is so different than kind of that victim, kind of this poor victim kind of refugee that you think of when you think of the stereotype that people think, right? And, you know, and the kids as well, they're just full of joy. There's so many incredible kids that we meet every single time that we're there. And, you know, here's what I think. I think that once you see the joy, once you see the art they make, once you get to know people on a real human level, that's the only time you could even understand the tragedy they've been through. Because for the Rohingya refugees, if you've never met a Rohingya in your whole life, if you don't know anything about them, then when someone says, did you know that a genocide was committed against the Rohingya? You'll say, well, that sounds really terrible, but I don't know anything about them. So it's not as tragic to me as if something happens to people that I know. Like if Paris or New York or London are attacked, I'm gonna like really feel it because I relate to those people. But when the Rohingya are massacred, it sounds terrible, but I won't feel it emotionally because I don't really know them. So through the arts, through film, you know, through many different mediums, we can actually connect with people. We can meet people. We can get to know who these amazing people actually are. And at that point, I think that's when you have humanized that person. They are connecting with you. You are connecting with them. And that's when you realize the tragedy of the actual situation, because you realize the beauty also. You have to realize the beauty before you recognize the tragedy.
That's a good quote. I'm going to use that. I'll credit you. You have to see the beauty before you recognize the tragedy, before you understand the tragedy.
Yeah.
You have to see the beauty before you understand the tragedy. So I am a filmmaker. I am a, storyteller. I've been working on the story of Mary Pickford for a while, who's the mother of Hollywood, founded United Artists, was very much about creating bridges between artists, transcending age, ethnicity, and gender in the roles she played, being what was considered ahead of her time as a visionary, but whatever ahead of your time means, it was of her time. She was also friends with Einstein, so thank you for bringing him up.
Oh, yeah?
He's in the movie.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
She was a relativity fan. But so through that story, I've seen a lot of even just misunderstanding about the icon of what she represents. So do you have any feelings about how movies, particularly in Hollywood or not considered Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, portray, or even the media in general, I guess, portrays and tells the stories of these particular people? Do you feel like that can have I'll just use the word negative, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I'm just saying, like, does that have a negative effect on the ability for us as a society to humanize these people in the way that their stories are told by other people that maybe don't understand?
Right. I think that, I think that those who tell these stories, it's important for them to really dive in with an open mind to really get to know what an actual situation is and get to know the real people behind the stories. I see a lot, especially I would say in journalism or in documentary filmmaking, and people decide ahead of time what story they want to tell before they actually go and do the investigating. That's something I've seen over and over, right? So you have like a journalist going into a situation, they're like, so my story is I'm going to go into this refugee camp and I am going to find like people who have gone through amazing, all this tragic, trauma in their life. And I'm going to get some really good quotes about that. And then I'm going to leave and talk about how crappy their lives are. The end. Before they even go. And so it's like, if you went in there with an open heart, of course, those tragic stories are there and you will hear them. But what about everything else? What about the actual people and the really interesting people that you're going to meet? If you actually go in with an open mind, then that's something where you can pull out those stories. And so I would just encourage those who are in the business of creating content, whether it's you're a journalist, you're making a documentary, you're making a film, whatever your topic is, actually go and investigate it and try to find out what others don't already know. That's the interesting thing, right? If you're just relying on your stereotypes and what you think the situation is, then you're just relying on these kind of this information that's passed on and on and on to different people, and often it's misinformation. if you go in saying, I want to find news stories, I want to actually find out what the reality is, that's when you're going to find these gems there. And that's what the story should be about.
Mm-hmm. And just like you said, the human being is so oftentimes different than the stereotypical story. Like you said, some of the most joyful beings you find anywhere, how do they find that joy even within their circumstances? It's something that's cultivated from within. You think so? Yeah.
Oh, you're asking the question? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It sounded rhetorical. Yeah.
I think that the joy, I don't know. I think it's hard to tell sometimes, because I think that joy is something that we need in life. And so those who kind of take it for granted often don't have as much joy, because they don't realize how much they need it. They're kind of like, life is really hard. I have to pay my cell phone bill, or just something like that. Whereas people who have gone through the most, who have the least to be joyful about, I think they recognize the importance of it. And I see people all the time in these situations, they just want to, they feel this incredible need to be joyful, to be playful, to laugh, to have brotherhood and sisterhood with each other, and build community. And I think that that's something that they really recognize. I'll say one thing about, sorry, my thing just paused.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'm still there.
Okay, good. Yeah.
We had one guy who we worked with actually in the UK, in Manchester, and I'll use the name Jeff. That wasn't his real name, but I'm not going to say his real name. But he was in Manchester, and he was someone who had been a child soldier in Sierra Leone. And he had just the situation that he had gone through was so traumatic that he ended up, as someone, when I knew him as in his 30s, working with him there, he was someone who just had so many mental health issues. It was just debilitating. I mean, he was so traumatized, he couldn't actually live. And so he lived out on the streets. He had a lot of substance abuse issues. It was just really, really challenging. And he had this incredible need to create community. And one thing that he said, he really started bonding with some of the other men and women on the project, all of whom were homeless. This was a project with homeless people. And they connected. They were actually able to connect often with other people in the community, who often would just walk by them and say, no, I don't want to give you any money, or maybe give them a little bit of money at the most, but would never actually have conversations with them. And through this project, through doing a mural, through expressing themselves, through out there being in public and creating beautiful art, they were able to form this amazing bond. And the last day, I remember we got in this big circle, and we had our kind of final thoughts. The project is over. How was it for everybody? When it got to him, he said, ever since I left my country, I have never felt that I had a community, and in this country, I've never felt it. And this project was the first time that I feel that sense of community with those around me. And it was through this art project, but what it's really about, the arts in that situation, is actually more about creating that community, creating those friendships, creating those connections. That's really what it was about for him.
I'm so inspired. Are we going to get to bring some of these people to the US to lead projects? Because it sounds like they're really leaders. It sounds like, joy is medicine, right? And in a way, a lot of them have figured that out, that it kind of doesn't matter what your circumstance is. You can cultivate those qualities from within you and with each other. And through expression and creativity. And we need to learn that more here. It's a human universal law as far as I'm concerned, but we are a very stressed out society, and I don't have nearly as much exposure as you do, but I've also had my experiences in certain oppressed communities and with certain people. And I do sit and talk to homeless people in LA sometimes, and find some of the deepest joy and gratitude that I've ever seen in certain moments, and feel like, why aren't they leading us? Sometimes I think that, don't you? I mean, God, wouldn't it be amazing to bring some over here? How can we do that?
I think it's often the case that people have these hierarchies in their minds and it's often based on economics. It's based on everything from class to race to gender, and these hierarchies. I think they're in all of us, and nobody can say that they don't have that or that they're completely blind to it. But if you're able to take away the hierarchy, not take away the background of the person, because that's important, and nobody should even try to be colorblind or anything like that. It's important to recognize people's heritage and their culture. But if you're able to attempt as best as you can to get rid of that hierarchy that we believe in, which is just a myth, then you will be able to see that we have so much to share with each other, and we do have so much that we can offer each other. And people who are supposedly, according to society, below somebody else can actually have more to offer that person than the other way around. And that's something that we see so often, but most people, often we are blind to that because of these hierarchies that we have in our minds.
So it's our responsibility as storytellers, or at least I feel my own in my role, is to change the myth, is to tell stories in a new way, is to shapeshift these archetypes and find that new paradigm. I'm really passionate about that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think stories and storytelling is the most, there's nothing really more important for human beings. We think in stories. Everything that we do, whether it's, culture or what country we come from and all the myths that surround that, or, our family stories, or whether it's our personal narratives, these are all stories. And that's how we as human beings understand reality. Yep. That's how we understand reality. And so we have to get that these stories are so powerful, and they're not good or bad. They are tools to be used. They can be used for good. And they can also be really destructive. The stories that, certain ideologies, really, really negative and destructive ideologies, they tell stories as well. And those stories lead you down a very negative path.
Exactly. So we have to transmute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is there anything before we wrap up that you want to share about the Black Lives Matter movement, or anything that you've heard from one of the communities you work with that you find inspiring or educational, or just anything you'd like to share on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we're really focused on so much. And for me, I'll say a couple things. First of all, personally, I see my wife's family is Black, and my two nephews, to see them, they're these beautiful boys, they're cute, they're sweet, and to think that people will, that when they get a little bit older, a police officer or others in society are going to see them in this negative light simply because they are Black boys. It's just, inconceivable. Once again, when you know somebody, when you humanize somebody, it's inconceivable. But we have this very unjust system. And I have, in my work, the main way I've been a part of that is by working with youth in the justice system. And I have worked in juvenile detention centers, leading arts programs. I've worked with kids who are on probation. So a lot of different things in places like New York, in places like DC, in New Jersey. So I've done a lot of these kinds of projects. And I think it's just so important to engage these youth, and also from the outside, trying to change that system. I think we are really recognizing we're coming to a time in our society, and it's reverberating around the world. People all over the place are recognizing that this is an issue, maybe with certain differences, but with certain similarities in their own societies. And that's why people all over the world are protesting, both in solidarity with African Americans and what's happening in the US, but also with what is happening with Black people and other oppressed groups all around the world. And people are identifying that, and they're marching, and they're wanting to change society. And I think that that is essential right now. And we're finally seeing, after years of the Black Lives Matter movement, this this sense that, you know, people, I mean, Mitt Romney just said Black Lives Matter. Mitt Romney, man. I mean, if he's gonna say it, then we've hit some kind of moment where, you know, that was something that I really realized, like, it is reaching people that it never reached before. People are finally, after so much struggle by so many people, so many activists, obviously with, unfortunately, so many unnecessary deaths, you know, people are starting to wake up to that. Now, that needs to be translated into real social change. And I think that's really what the people on the front lines of this movement are trying to do. And for the rest of us, we need to really be supportive of them in any way, in every way that we can.
Absolutely. And that's part of it. I mean, just someone, like you said, stepping out and even saying that is a part of changing that myth and that paradigm shift, you know, is creating that sense of we're on even playing field here, like as human beings, and these lives matter. And I didn't know he said that, but that's intriguing.
It's weird. It's very weird, but it's good.
It's good. It's good, yeah. You know? So we'll say goodbye to Instagram, so we can go see what message Celio Bordin has for us as he channeled our chat on Facebook. This episode will be on our YouTube channel, Humanizing the Icon. And Joel, thank you so much. I have just loved you and admired you for the entire time that I've known you. So this is really fun.
I feel the same. I feel the same about you. And I'm so glad that we were able to do this.
Yes, me too. All right. I'm going to sign off on Instagram. We're going to go to Facebook. Thank you, everyone. All right.
Bye, everybody.
All right. End video there. It will share to IGTV. That's really exciting. Okay.
All right. So we're still on Facebook.
I will turn up the volume now.
Yeah.
Are you back with your volume on the computer?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, amazing.
Let's see what Celio's doing.
Celio, can you share your messages with us?
I listen your conversation. It's very sensitive, very beautiful. I love you guys because we need love. Everybody needs love, and we are ready for give love. And then my perception today is the curve about this situation in the world, because we have some people stay like in the jail, is the quarantine, I think so.
Wow.
And then is without expression, you saw.
Wow.
Is without expression because is in quarantine, is closed at home, have barrier, is like a wall, no, is quarantine. And then we come, and then we have some dark, dangerous, is this injustice, and we live every day, and then the people can say, doesn't matter, I don't take a virus, I'm not contagious, and then kill many people. Wow. Is in the darkness. But we are a very beautiful love woman. I want to nominate a love, because in the mind have town, and then every day we have people can give food to the homeless, can watch for the poor people, can give help for come outside to this situation, darkness. And then we have this beautiful woman.
She's beautiful, Celio.
Come on. And in the darkness around becoming some flowers, because something go inside to the hope.
Whoa.
This is the hope about a winner, our flags. But inside to the world, we have something. I saw something explosion, and then I feel you talk about kids suffer because injustice, because People egoism want more, and poor people suffer, and kids go to in the war, and then it's coming explosion. But more told everything, we have a flag. We have a flag over there too, and but the work is difficult, is not stable, but the wind move a flag. And then this is a complete work, and a resume is a curve, a darkness in quarantine without any expression, flat, but it's gel in the mind, gel before, wall, but we have love because we have some angel every day can help
Wow.
us in this town. And then some flower coming and try to cover the darkness and coming hope, and we win with our flag.
New myth.
Easy.
It's the new myth. It's like the quarantine is a metaphor for the ghetto in the mind, and then this feminine love that comes in as the cure. It's really beautiful poetry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very beautiful. Nice work, Celio. I love how, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you
Me too.
created that from the conversation. I've tried only once to interpret a conversation live by painting, and it's very challenging, and I'm super impressed by what you have created there.
Is a gift, man. Is a gift. I talk about perception art because it's not possible think this, it's coming from belly,
Coming from belly.
you understand?
Yes,
And
coming from
you're
your
an
intuition.
artist.
Yeah.
When you don't thinking, when you are inside your work, and then the ends come self without direction, with the part of the brain doesn't work, irrational part of brain.
He's talking about when you get in the zone and you
But-
like lose yourself and as an artist.
I
Yeah.
know you understand because you are great artist, and I adore your work. And your word today with Jennifer word is this: I don't do this. We do this today. Do you understand?
That was a collaboration, an energetic
Yes.
collaboration. Yes.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's great. Well, I guess we all did a good job.
Yeah. So I know that Joel has to go, so we'll say goodbye on Facebook and then we'll say goodbye on Zoom. We get to say goodbye. So thank you to everyone on Facebook that tuned in.
Thanks, everybody. It was fun. Thanks for tuning in.
Super fun, and this will be on our timelines. And thank you, Celio. We love you as always.
Love.
Yes, thank you, Celio. And Jen, thank you so much for inviting me. This was really fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
This was so much fun. I love it.
Yeah.
I could go for 2 more hours, but we're not going to. Okay, I'm going to sign us off of Facebook. All right.
Okay.
Stop
Okay.
live stream. Bye.